Welcome back everybody to another ASMR video. This time, this I ordered about a year ago. Well, maybe April or May of 23. I crowdfunded, helped crowdfunded. It's from Geeksline. No, it's not from Geeksline. Yes, it is from Geeksline. Now, Geeksline has put out many anthologies before. If you took a look at my original YouTube channel way back years and years ago, maybe as early as 5 or as late as 6 years ago now, 2018, I think from 2016 to 2018, when you pre-ordered or helped crowdfund, I should say, one of these books, one of the tiers was you could get a limited edition console that had a French artist design something on the actual console. So I had a Nintendo 64 Zelda type console at one point. I had a GameCube that was designed as well. I forget exactly what the game was for that, but there was another console too. I want to say a Super Nintendo, but I could be wrong. Well, they stopped doing those consoles, but one of the things they did do with this version is, and because it's a Game Boy primarily book with Virtual Boy, I got the bundle, Game Boy and Virtual Boy together. You could, one of the tiers was to get an actual unreleased Game Boy game that I want to say these people created. I'm not positive, but it was called Brick and Destroy, and off the top of my head, it's almost like a alleyway or brick breaker on the, if you guys remember the cell phone, the Blackberries, Arkanoid type of game. And when this came in the mail, I only received the book. I did not receive the game, and I wasn't the only one. So I commented on the page, and I sent them a direct email message, and I didn't hear anything. Never heard anything back, so I figured, all right, well, I'm out the upgraded amount. Well, I didn't check my actual email, because a few days later, I got this in the mail. And this is the exact same thing, except it is the Brick and Destroy edition, as you can see right there. And it comes with the games, like so. And so what they did is they apologized in the email for messing up, let me keep the one they sent me, and then sent me another. So we're going to keep that one sealed. But let's open this one up. And Game Boy is one of my favorite consoles of all time, the original black and white. Because when I was a kid growing up, that was the only console I had. Every other kid in the class either had Game Gear or Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I was the last kid in my grade class to get a home console, if you want to call Game Boy a home console. And I was always one system behind. When the Nintendo 64 came out, I finally got a Sega Genesis, and so on and so forth, until I started working on my own and getting my own money, and then I could do whatever I wanted at that point. But I'm interested to see what the game looks like here, so let's try to take this out delicately, and I'm going to try to, I don't know, it looks like there's two. I don't know what's going on, so let's take a look. I don't want to crush these boxes. Okay, I see what's going on here. So this is the actual Game Boy game, Brick and Destroy. And on the back it says Geeksline, so maybe Geeksline did make this. But it looks to me like an alleyway clone, so. Oh, it's in, okay. So, for centuries, a benevolent artificial intelligence has looked over the peaceful lives of the people of Earth. But at the dawn of the 21st century, S4-O-A, a dark force and powerful computer virus, has launched its bricks in Guardian bots for the sole purpose of conquering the planet. With the help of the Space Pad Destroy, Spaceballs, copyright Mel Brooks, and power capsules, you must save the free world from this alien dictatorship. So it has 20 levels, 4 bosses, and 8 power capsules. Let's open this up and see exactly what's inside here. No instruction booklet. That would have been really cool had they done that, but here's the game in a Game Boy game pack. Yeah. Well, not an original. It would say Nintendo over here on the back. But yeah, there it is. And this is the case. Now, I don't exactly know, as I mess this up completely, I just want to put it back, and don't exactly know what this is for, considering it doesn't fit at all. So I don't really know the purpose, unless it's got warped and it shouldn't have. I don't really know what this possibly could be for. Maybe it should fit and it just warped. I don't know. Anyway, that's the game. Now let's take a look at the book itself. You also have Virtual Boy in here. Oh, and to see the 3D images for the Virtual Boy, they gave you 3D glasses, which is pretty cool. Publisher's Certificate of Authenticity. This was number 176 out of 1,000. And I think my name should be in here somewhere, just like all the other people who crowdfunded this. American covers, that's pretty cool. Take a look. But here's the foreword. So this is from Jim Destroy. With the plastic brick-like appearance that was more like a low-end toy than revolutionary product, the Game Boy, with its perfect balance of masterful design and acceptable economic concessions, left an undeniable mark on the history of video games. From the low-resolution monochrome screen to its simple wave-form-based sound, nobody could have predicted Nintendo's handheld to become this undeniably astonishing and revolutionary machine, and still considered today as a legendary console. And yet, more than any other machine, the Game Boy opened the doors of a still unexplored world of play to an uninitiated public, even expanding video games beyond their predominantly young male demographic. Gunpei Yokoi, Satoru Okada, and the rest of the team at Nintendo's R&D1 overturned newly established gaming codes by imagining a system that ran counter to the prevailing view that technological progress should transcend the gaming experience. Almost 35 years since its launch in Japan on April 21st, 1989, its aesthetics, games, cartridges, and their translucent plastic cases, basic sounds, and mediocre screen remain etched in the memories of everyone who played it. What gamer of the 90s can say they never lifted up a column of blocks in Tetris, lined up a column of blocks in Tetris, captured an adorable monster in Pokemon, or navigated secret passages in Super Mario Land? The Game Boy Anthology pays tribute to this finely thought-out machine, highlighting the creator's vast software library, inspiring accessories, and more, if you're lucky enough to be holding the collector's version of this book, that is. The Game Boy is dead. Long live the Game Boy. So, and there's thanks to our backers. Oh, it's right here. I should be part of that. There I am right there. No, that's Andrew Fennick. I'm not here. That's interesting. Oh, yes, I am right here in white. I mean, you can't even see that, but you might have to pause the video and zoom in. See if I can zoom in here. No, it's too far. But anyway, yeah, I'm there. A lot of people, what do you call it, kickstarted this. Just like a lot of Geeks Line products. Game Boy history. There's Mario and Yoshi, which was a PAL release only, I believe. Yeah. Game Wing cables, Tetris. This is a long read. The 4 launch titles for the United States, in addition to Tetris, was Alleyway, Super Mario Land, Baseball, and Tennis. And I had all 4 of these. Not at launch, obviously, but eventually, when they went on sale at Woolworths. F1 Race I had, Radar Mission I did not, Dr. Mario Quicks I had, Solar Striker I had. Yeah. Then they brought out the color line to spice things up. It wasn't color, but the outside of the shells were. I think I had a yellow one at one point. Yeah, I think it was yellow, which isn't my color, hilariously enough. But Super Game Boy, Virtual Boy's here. Game Boy Light. Complete library. God damn it. Alright, this must be... Oh, this is cool. So let's look at the US releases here. I had 4 in 1 fun pack. Well, I should say I have this now, but so let's see what it says. So this came out in September of 1992. Beam Software, Interplay was the publisher. Oh, it Japanese released. Excuse me, the American release was September of 1992. Yeah. Came out later in Japan, which is interesting. Usually Japan gets games first, but this is it right here. 4 in 1 Fun Pack does not bear its title very well, because even if there are 4 good games in one, do not expect to find any fun. Indeed, this compilation simply gathers a chess game, checkers, backgammon, and reversey, which is another name for Othello. Simple but effective, the possibility to play with 2 linked Game Boys is useless, since it's possible to play with 2 players taking turns passing the console to each other. Yeah, but who wants to do that? You can't see what the other one did. Whoever wrote that's an idiot. Imagine playing chess with somebody but blindfolded as they move. That's just stupid. 4 in 1 Fun Pack 2. That's one game I am missing for my Game Boy personal collection, but this came out in '93. Did not get a Japanese release, which is interesting. Solitaire, Dominoes, Cribbage, and Yahtzee are all included in the second compilation by Interplay. Volume 2 ends up being a much less interesting collection because the games included are more based on luck and chance instead of strategy and skill. Even if some rules could be changed to add variety, this unambitious title offers very little. And that's true. It was the worst of the 2. Alright, now this game down here, I have some gameplay of it on my original YouTube channel, Andy VHP. This game was one of my favorite games of all time for the Game Boy, and it has one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. Every level, except maybe for one, was incredible as far as sound goes. This was published by Taito, and it came out in March of 1992, The Adventures of Star Saver, right here. Kevin and his sister are abducted by aliens, but the young boy is ejected into space after refusing to become a spy for the invaders. Fortunately, a mecha manages to rescue Kevin and decides to lend him a hand to fight the evil aliens and save his captive sister. This is a very playable but difficult action platformer. When you are hit, Kevin ejects from the mecha and is armed only with a simple gun. If an enemy hits you a second time, you're dead. However, it is possible to find your mecha later, as well as upgrades, while fighting through the 9 levels. I wouldn't say it was difficult. You had to learn the enemy patterns, but all in all, it's an amazing game, and I love going back to it once in a blue moon, you know? Alright, so here we have the Addams Family, Pugsley Scavenger Hunt, Adventure Island, and Adventure Island 2. Let's see, we had Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, Adventures of Aerostar, Aladdin, Alien 3, Alien Olympics, Alien vs. Predator. Actually, Alien Olympics did not come out in the U.S. Then we had Alfred Chicken, All-Star Baseball 99, Alleyway. Why don't they have the cover art for the U.S.? That's interesting. So, Breakout, Arkanoid, and Tonic Title. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if you can see this. If I zoom in, maybe. I can't see everything on each page, though. That's the problem. Let's zoom out and do the best we can, I guess, here. So Alleyway came out, it was a launch title in the US, like it said, July of 1989. You guys see this? I don't know. Breakout, Arkanoid, and Tonic Tile are all video game classics, so it's not surprising that a similar title came to Nintendo's handheld console as soon as it was launched. Alleyway offers a lot of varied levels, but the formula has been done time and again, and this unfortunately doesn't bring anything new to the genre. As a worldwide launch title, it was guaranteed to sell well with an estimated 2 million copies sold. Then down here, I don't know if you can see, Altered Space, a 3D alien adventure, Amazing Penguin, Amazing Tater, one of the rarest games to find complete. It's upwards of $2,000 easy on eBay. Let's see, Animaniacs, Arcade Classics 1 through 4. I have all these. And Arcade Classics, Super Breakout, and Battlezone. So I have all of these in my collection. So the first one, Asteroids Missile Command, came out in July of 95. That's interesting. So they got released one after the other, one a month. And then this came out a year after. So Asteroids Missile Command, July of 95 in the US. This first Arcade Classics compilation published by Nintendo featured 2 games that were already released for the Game Boy, Asteroids and Missile Command. These versions are similar to the original ones and still don't offer a save feature for high scores. The only notable improvement is the presence of screen borders when using the Super Game Boy. And then Arcade Classics number 2, Centipede and Millipede, August of 95. Centipede and its sequel Millipede together in one cartridge. Just like the original releases, you move your ship freely in the lower third of the screen. The goal remains the same. Shoot the millipedes visible on the screen before they descend towards you. The version of Centipede on this cartridge is the same as the one released independently in 1992. Then right over here, Arcade Classics number 3, Galaga and Galaxian, September 1995. This third compilation of arcade games collects Galaga and its predecessor Galaxian. Although visually an eyesore on Game Boy hardware, these 2 titles become more pleasing to the eye when played on the Super Game Boy. However, the experience, once again, is the same. Despite the historical significance of these titles, it is difficult to recommend them to an audience other than nostalgia junkies. And then Arcade Classics number 4, Defender and Joust, of October of 95. 2 more arcade classics, this time by Williams, are added to the Game Boy library. Defender and Joust are adapted here faithfully, but perhaps a little too much. Having the ability to play 2 players via the Game Link cable would have been nice, but instead we get the less fun alternating style, and there is still no save feature for high scores. The only real perk here is having 2 games in 1 cartridge, plus the Super Game Boy visual improvements. And then down here, Arcade Classics, Super Breakout, and Battlezone. This came out October of '96. Battlezone in your pocket, that would have been a gamer's dream in the '80s, and this Game Boy collection also includes Super Breakout. Battlezone is well made for the console, and it's still fun after 16 years from its arcade release. But during a time when 3D games at home were becoming the norm, the wireframe look unfortunately comes across feeling dated. Nostalgic gamers, however, would be delighted to have this classic on the go. Alright, so then we have Asteroids. These are all, I'm just pointing out the US releases of games. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Avenging Spirit. Interesting again that they do not have the US art for this one. I don't know why. They have, looks like they have, most games have all European, Japanese art, but not this one. Now I have this one. This was a very challenging game. Jalico published it, and it's worth a pretty penny complete. I have it in the collection. I'd say you could get about $1,500 for this, easy. This came out in November of '92. A man is coldly shot by gangsters who then kidnap his girlfriend. Her father, a brilliant scientist, manages to recall the spirit of the deceased and begs him to save his daughter. Now back from the dead in the form of a ghost, our hero will have to go through 6 levels full of various enemies. Being a ghost, your life gauge decreases over time. It is a cute and easy to understand platformer, where Avenging Spirit shows variety as well as originality, as in its 20 different character types to play as. Each one has different physical abilities, whether it be jumps, attacks, or speed. Released 1 year after the original arcade game, this portable version of Avenging Spirit is a pleasant surprise. I didn't even know it was an arcade game at first, so I learned something there. You got Atomic Punk, Bonk's Adventure, Bonk's Revenge, Balloon Kid, Bases Loaded. I had this for a time. I don't think I have this anymore, but I hated this. I hated the Bases Loaded games. I hated the pitcher batter interface even when you're batting, you still had to play like that. I never got it, was a fan of it. Jalico created Bases Loaded. I have baseball though, and that was a launch title for the Game Boy. It came out in came out in July of 1989. So here is a title that says it all. Baseball was one of the 4 launch games for Game Boy in Japan. With that said, you should not expect much more than a very basic baseball game with a high level of difficulty. The opposing batter rarely misses, and bare bones options. The possibility to play with 2 players via link cable is nice, but the whole package is too limited to hold interest for long. And that's true. I played the hell out of this though as a kid. One of the only games I had for a while. And I had Mario on one team, Luigi on the other. Barbie Game Girl, Battle Arena Toshinden, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, Batman the video game, Batman Forever, Batman the animated series, Batman Return of the Joker, Battle Bull, Battle of Olympus, Battletoads in Ragnarok's World, Battletoads Double Dragon, Battle Unit Zeoth, Beavis and Butthead, Beetlejuice, Best of the Best, Championship Karate, Beethoven, The Ultimate Canine Keeper, Battleship, Bionic Commando, Bill and Ted's Excellent Game Boy Adventure, Bill Elliott's NASCAR Fast Tracks, Bionic Battler, Black Bass, Lure Fishing, Blades of Steel. Great game for the Game Boy, great game for the NES. I had this. This came out in the US in August of '91. Training, single match, tournament, and 2-player matches all make up a complete package for this adaptation of Blades of Steel. It matches a lot of what made the NES game so much fun, which has become an all-time classic of sports titles. Konami's game has nice detail and the animation is fluid and fast. It also plays great despite how messy the action can get. The Fight sequences between players are just like in the original. Great. The fights are not very technical, but they are fun and hard-hitting. Then you have Blaster Master Boy, the Blues Brothers, Jukebox Adventure, Bo Jackson 2 games in 1, Bomberman Game Boy, Boomer's Adventure in Asmic World, Boggle Plus, Brain Drain, Breakthrough, Boulder Dash, Brain Bender, Boxel. Have this. The second ever Game Boy game I ever got. The first was Daedalian Opus, which we'll get to in a second. The third game was Boxel, second after Tetris. And I'm pretty sure we found this in Woolworths for like $5 or $10 brand new. So this was published by FCI, and it came out in May of 1990. Sokoban, as it's known in Japan, is a video game classic of the 80s, so it was only natural that the Game Boy would receive a port. In a compartmentalized level on a single screen, the player must push crates onto marked areas in order to move on to the next level. It is not possible to pull the crates, and the slightest mistake can leave you in a bad position, therefore requiring a restart of the level. With more than 100 levels and the possibility to create 3 more, the basic but efficient puzzle game will keep you busy for many hours if you like the concept. And then they came out with a sequel, which I never bought originally. I think I might have it, just because of nostalgia's sake, but it's quite expensive. The second one is. It was a limited release, but it did come out in the US in June of '92, 3 years later. With more than 120 new levels and a level editor to create 3 more, this sequel of Boxel offers something more for fans of the first title. The identical graphics, sounds, and controls makes this feel like playing the first Boxel, but with new levels. Unfortunately, it is not possible to save your creations once the console is turned off. In short, Boxel 2 is a pretty good sequel with little innovation. It's a typical safe sequel. Bubble Ghost, Bubble Bobble Part 2, Bubsy 2, Mirai Fighter Deluxe, Burger Time Deluxe, Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, Bust-A-Move 2, Bust-A-Move 3, that came out in Europe, not here. Why don't they have Crazy Castle 2? It's interesting. Buster Brothers, Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 2, that answers my question. Caesar's Palace, let's see, Captain America and the Avengers, Casino Fun Pack, Castlevania The Adventure, Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge, Castlevania Legends, Casper, Castlian, Cat Trap. I always saw this game at Woolworths for like $20 and I just never bought it. There's no interest in it. Centipede, Chase HQ, Championship Pool, The Chess Master. So we have this. This came out in January of 1991. The Chess Master menu offers several interesting options, such as the ability to play against another player, arrange pieces on the board to create various situations, choose the difficulty level of the opposing AI, and save your game. While that last one isn't entirely true, since the game does not have a real save function, but it will generate a 32-character password to resume your game later. Okay, it's all Japan games here. Choplifter 2, Chuck Rock, Cliffhanger, Cool Spot, Contra the Alien Wars, Cool Ball, Cool Hand, Cool World, Cosmo Tank, College Slam, Cutthroat Island, Psyraid, Crystal Quest, Daffy Duck. Here's Daedalian Opus. My first ever Game Boy game aside from Tetris, this was $9.99 at Woolworths brand new. And one of the interesting stories about this is I always asked my mom, because growing up we were poor, I said, what if, she goes, when she gave me the Game Boy for my birthday, she goes, don't expect to get any games, you're going to be playing Tetris for years and years. And I said, well, what if a game was like $10? And she goes, there's no way it'll ever be $10, but if it is, I'll buy it for you. And sure enough, we're in Woolworths, and I'm checking out the video games section as my mom's shopping at the other end of the Dedham Mall, back when Dedham, Massachusetts had a mall. And Daedalian Opus is right there. And I ran as fast as I could from one end of the mall to the other, and I think she was in TJ Maxx at the time. And I said, Mom, you're not going to believe this. There's a Game Boy game in Woolworths for $10. And she said, you must be mistaken. You probably saw the wrong price. So finally she came with me, and sure enough, there it was, $10, and she bought it. And I got home, and I played this for like 10 minutes, and I hated life. But I was not about to tell my mom, this game sucks. So, it's a puzzle game, and basically what you have to do is you have to fit the pieces inside of this little puzzle box here to make them all fit. But sometimes there are extra pieces you don't need, and it just takes forever, and I had no patience as a kid for this. But this came out in America in July of 1990. So I was 6. I must have been 7 or 8 when she got this. In this puzzle game, the player controls a hero who must solve puzzles in order to move from one island to another. To do this, you have to position pieces in order to fit a frame. It is possible to rotate the pieces, but also flip them. The more you progress, the more complicated the puzzles become, especially when you realize that some of the pieces may not be necessary. With 36 levels, Vic Tokai's game has good playtime, but it would have been nice to see a few more puzzles added. Not for me. I hated life playing that thing. Darkwing Duck, Days of Thunder, Darkman, Dennis the Menace, Desert Strike, Return to the Gulf, Dead Heat Scramble, Dexterity, Dig Dug, Dick Tracy, Donkey Kong Land, Donkey Kong Land 2, and Donkey Kong Land 3. These were technical marvels on the Game Boy when they came out. Technical marvels for what Rare was able to do. Let's see, nothing here. Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon 3, the arcade game. Bubble Dribble 5-on-5, another one of my favorite games. This is also a Konami sports title. And it was an NES adaptation for the Game Boy here. So this came out in December 1991 from Konami. Stemming from the Double Dribble franchise, the American name, Hyper Dunk is the prime example of basketball games for Game Boy. Admittedly, the game suffers from pretty basic gameplay, limited animations, and ultimately sprite flickering, but the quality graphics and easy-to-follow action make up for those shortcomings. It's just a shame there isn't a way to play with more than 2 players. Why would you want to do that? Dragon's Lair, The Legend, Dr. Mario, Dr. Franken, okay. Another game that has skyrocketed in price. You could probably find this for a few $100s. The sequel, I didn't even know it existed, and I had this at one time when I collected a lot more for Game Boy than I currently do, and I sold everything, and I'll never forget it. The sequel, I had a guy on some message board, Nintendo age maybe, and he lived literally a couple hours from me in Massachusetts, and I drove down, or he actually drove to my work. I paid $650 for Dr. Franken 2. But the first one here, this came out in December 1992. Frankenstein's monster, and this was made by Kemco. Frankenstein's monster feels lonely, so he sets out to build himself a girlfriend. Frankie, his pet name, must then explore the castle of his creator and find the pieces of a woman, feet, legs, head, and give her a life. It's a rather creepy scenario for an adventure platformer, with many areas, 230 different rooms, and non-linear level design. With its incessant back-and-forth gameplay and lack of clues, Dr. Franken will make the player lose their head on more than one occasion. The presence of a map doesn't even help, and it may take you a while to finish simply because the difficulty is so high. Fortunately, it is possible to generate a password at any time to resume progress. And they're not kidding. I got stuck. I must have gone from room to room, and I didn't know how to figure out where to go next. And this is one of those games where I just had to stop playing because I never knew where to go next. It was exceptionally difficult. Alright, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Dragonheart, Fire and Steel, DuckTales, DuckTales 2, Earthworm Jim, Elevator Action, Extra Bases, F1 Pole Position, F-15 Strike Eagle, and then F1 Race. Now I got this, it was packaged, some of the games were packaged with a 4-player adapter inside. This is published by Nintendo. This came out in December 1990. Developed by Nintendo R&D 1, this well-made Formula One game offers a championship and simple race modes, alone or with other competitors. The Grand Prix requires a player to finish first in each of the 8 races, which is no easy task, and they're right, it was not. Fortunately, a boost is available at all times, but be careful not to spin out off the track. The slightest mistake is almost impossible to make up for. Each race ends with a podium of the winners, along with an appearance of a Nintendo character, Peach, Link, Samus. It is also possible to play with up to 4 players. The 4-player adapter was included in most of the European and American versions. F1 Race was re-released in 1998 in North America as part of the Player's Choice lineup. I did not know that. But by that time, well, I should have known that. Interesting. Faceball 2000, I have this. This was published by Bulletproof Software, and it came out in December of 1991. So we're talking this game right here. Faceball 2000 is an FPS on Game Boy Possible. Apparently, yes, it's no Doom or Wolfenstein 3D, but Faceball 2000 is indeed an FPS, adapted from MIDI Maze, released on Atari ST. The principle of the game consists of walking through a maze and eliminating all enemies in order to move on to the next level. The action can be repetitive, but there is a rather impressive amount of content throughout the 70 levels available. Also, Faceball 2000 offers battles for up to 4 players simultaneously. The graphical style is admittedly very basic, even rudimentary, but this unique title on Game Boy is worth a look for what it accomplished. And then there's trivia here. First time I've seen trivia, I think, on any game. The developers had planned to market the game with a special cable to allow connectivity for up to 16 Game Boys. However, Nintendo planned to release the 4-player adapter, so Bulletproof Software had to resort to using Nintendo's accessory, instead limiting the maximum number of players to 4. It's an interesting what-if scenario. That's true. Felix the Cat. This game is extremely rare, extremely expensive to find complete. Fastest Lap, Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, Fighting Simulator 2-in-1 Flying Warriors, FIFA Soccer 97, FIFA Road to the World Cup 98, did not come out in America. FIFA International Soccer did though. FIFA Soccer 96 did, so the only one that did not was the Road to the World Cup 98, which I could have sworn did come out in US, but no, just European. Fist of the North Star, I had this game. And I had no idea what it was when I got it. I didn't know it was based on manga or anything, but now I do. This came out in April of 1990, and this was made by Electro Brain, published it. For his first appearance on Game Boy, Kenshiro is realized in a one-on-one fighting game featuring 11 characters from the Hokado no Ken universe. The normal mode consists of a series of confrontations against AI enemies, while the versus and team modes allow you to face another player via the Game Link cable. The Game Boy is obviously not the most ideal platform for fighting games, and Fist of the North Star unfortunately suffers due to this fact. The ridiculously small sprites make following the action difficult, and even though the roster offers a decent number of fighters, it suffers from being highly imbalanced. Some characters have a dozen moves, while others have only 3. There are even characters who are unable to jump. Final Fantasy Legend, Final Fantasy Legend 2, Final Fantasy Legend 3, Final Fantasy Adventure, Fish Dude, The Flash, Flipple. I had this game. This came from Taito as well. This came out in April of 1990. In this puzzle game, which was already released on several platforms before Game Boy, the player controls a blob that must throw a cube onto a row of other cubes in order to make them disappear. It sounds simple, but several constraints needlessly complicate the gameplay. First, the blob can only move along the right wall. Second, it can only throw blocks horizontally, so you have to take advantage of the structure of the top of the board to bounce the block to another block in the structure with the same pattern. You also have to be careful with the block behind the one you are aiming at. It gets complicated. Because it is automatically recovered and you will need to be able to use it next turn, finally, the number of moves is limited as well as the time. In short, there are many obstacles that will make playing Flipple difficult, but it is also highly addictive. With 50 levels and a 2-player mode, this Taito game promises hours of puzzle fun if you're patient to learn it. Then we have the Flintstones King Rock Treasure Island, Fortified Zone, Foreman for Real. I had this boxing game. This came out from Acclaim, and it came out in June of '95. 3 years after George Foreman's KO Boxing, Acclaim returned with Foreman for Real. This time developed by Software Creations, this new simulation offers similar gameplay, but the visual fidelity made a huge leap forward. The back view is closer, and sprites are bigger with more detail. As for the content, the game offers a championship mode and single fights, but no 2-player mode. There's also double the number of boxers, with 20 in total. It is now possible to move sideways, but this is the only notable addition to the gameplay. Otherwise, the controls regressed a lot. Because of the large sprites, the animation lacks fluidity, and moves are executed with a delay or not at all. In a game based on a sport that's heavily reliant on reflexes, this kind of shortcoming is unforgivable. Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball, I had that. This came out in October '95 from Acclaim. It's right over here. With 28 teams and 8 game modes, exhibition, season, practice, etc., this baseball simulator, branded with Chicago White Sox star player Frank Big Hurt Thomas, is undoubtedly one of the best on Game Boy. The game sports detailed graphics along with fluid and realistic animation. The controls are intuitive when pitching, but when batting, luck takes precedence over skill. There is also no battery save feature, instead a 32-character password system, and no Super Game Boy optimization or 2-player mode. In short, it's a good game, but with glaring flaws. And we have Frogger, The Game of Harmony, Game Boy Gallery, 5 games in 1. This was a European release. Game & Watch Gallery. What else? Let's see. Gargoyle's Quest. Gauntlet 2. Gearworks. George Foreman's KO Boxing, Ghostbusters 2, The Getaway, High Speed 2, Go-Go Tank, Golf, Goal, Godzilla. I have this. This came out in August of 1990. If you were hoping for massive destruction and epic monster battles on the Game Boy, think again. Godzilla is a cute puzzle game with an arcade-like gameplay similar to Boulder Dash. Interestingly enough, the back of the European box is careful not to show screenshots of the game. Despite the surprising twist, Godzilla is a rather fun title. In each of the 64 levels, the player must destroy blocks to unlock the exit. There's a constant appearance of creatures which can be defeated or repelled with your fist. Gradius, the Interstellar Assault. Great Greed. Okay, I have this. This is another very expensive game to find complete. Could fetch anywhere from $700 minimum to probably $1,200 on eBay. This is an RPG, one of my first ever forays into RPGs, right after Ultima Ruins of Virtue. And this game from Namco, I couldn't get into. It was weird. The game, first of all, I wasn't an RPG fan because of Ultima, which that's another story for another day. But maybe I'll get to it when we get to you. But yeah, you fought food. You fought, like, tomatoes and stuff. It was weird, some of the enemies. I just couldn't get into it, the game. But at some point when I have time, I'll try to revisit Great Greed. But this came out in April of '93. While your character was checking rain acidity in the middle of a forest, a strange character from a parallel world arrives, wounded and pursued by a hunter. Teleporting back to escape, the stranger mistakenly transports you to his world, the Kingdom of Green. After reaching the castle, you learn that the evil Biohazard, who is polluting Green's world, is drawing his powers from your own world. It's up to you to put a stop to his evil deeds. In addition to offering an original scenario, Great Greed offers a nice presentation and rich content, with 7 countries to visit and about 20 different magics to use. As is often the case in RPGs, the random battles are turn-based, but only the hero fights here, even if there's another character accompanying you. Battles are numerous and rather redundant, but also fast since you don't use a menu system. Each action is performed with a single press of a button. A is to attack, B is to defend, start is to escape battle, and the spells are assigned to the directional pad, up, down, left, right. The adventure is long, and in addition to having 3 save slots, Great Greed also includes an automatic save. This Namco RPG was also released in North America, but not Europe. Although it is not as well known as Mystic Quest or Final Fantasy Adventure, Great Greed is one of the best RPGs on the Game Boy. Gremlins 2, The New Batch, HAL Wrestling, Harvest Moon Game Boy, Hatris, Heavyweight Championship Boxing, Hyenko Alien, Hercules, High Stakes Gambling, Hit the Ice, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Hook, The Humans, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Disney's version, Hudson Hawk, Hunt for Red October, Hyper Load Runner, In Your Face, Incredible Crash Dummies, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Iron Man, XO, Manowar and Heavy Metal, International Superstar Soccer, and then we have the ingenious productivity packs. We have Berlitz French Translator, Berlitz Spanish Translator, Travel Guide, Spell Checker and Calculator, Personal Organizer and Phone Book. Ishido, The Way of the Stones, Itchy and Scratchy and Miniature Golf Madness, James Bond 007, Jack Nicklaus Golf, Cheap Jamboree, Off-Road Adventure, Jordan vs. Bird 1-on-1, Jeopardy. I have Jeopardy, and there's different versions. I think I have them all now. No, I'm still missing Teen Tournament. But I finally got Platinum Edition, as you guys saw in one of my pickup videos. So you have Jeopardy, Jeopardy Sports Edition, Jeopardy Teen Tournament, that's the one I'm missing, and Jeopardy Platinum. And it says each one when it came out. So the first Jeopardy came out in March of 91, Jeopardy Sports came out in May of 94, Jeopardy Teen Tournament December of 96, and same with Platinum Edition, December of 96. All were made by Game Tech. The popular American game show Jeopardy has been adapted for many different platforms, including the Game Boy. Nintendo's handheld has had no less than 4 different releases, all exclusive in North America, including one dedicated to sports and another specifically for teenagers. The goal is to win as much money as possible by answering trivia in the form of a question before your opponents. The player has 60 seconds to type in the correct answer, a laborious process. Each edition has about 1,500 answers, 1,700 for the sports edition, which would suggest a healthy amount of content before coming across repeats. However, the graphics, interface, and avatars are exactly the same across all of the titles. The only novelties found in the Teen Tournament and Platinum games are the lack of a Game Link cable, multiplayer mode, in favor of Super Game Boy enhancements. This gives the great games some color, as well as the ability to play with a friend using two SNES controllers. The lackluster visuals in the first game were acceptable for its time, 1991, but to see the same graphics engine reused again and again for 5 years is scandalous. They're funny. The Jetsons, Robot Panic, Jimmy Connor's Tennis. Did that come out in the US? Yeah, it did. Judge Dredd, Jungle Strike. Okay. Jurassic Park Part 2, The Chaos Continues. Joe and Mac, Jungle Book. Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. Kid Dracula, Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, The King of Fighters 95, The King of Fighters Heat of Battle, Killer Instinct, Kirby's Block Ball, Kingdom Crusade, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Pinball Land, Kirby Star Stacker, Klax, right here, Night Quest, Krusty's Funhouse featuring The Simpsons, Kung Fu Master. Very rare to find complete in box as well. Quirk, Lamborghini American Challenge, Last Action Hero, The Lawnmower Man. Oh, Lawnmower Man did not come out in the US. I apologize for that. thought it did. Lethal Weapon, Laszlo's Leap, The Legend of the River King, Game Boy, Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, Lemmings. Did this come out? Nope, just the first Lemmings did. Second did not. Little Mermaid, Lion Chase, I have this. This is a Pac-Man clone, basically. This came out in July of 1990 from Data East. Almost 10 years after its original release in arcades, Lock and Chase was adapted for Game Boy. This Pac-Man clone offers a story of its own. You play as a thief who robs banks and must avoid the police throughout the 36 diverse levels. The mazes are all different, and most have automatic doors that allow you to lose your pursuers. In addition to the coins you must collect to move on to the next level, there are bags that temporarily immobilize enemies. There's also a diamond that is used to repel the cops, like the power pellets in Pac-Man. Also, there's a roulette bonus game at the end of each world. Lock and Chase is an obscure classic, but a good one. And here's some trivia. Lock and Chase was indeed released in Europe, but only in certain countries and in very limited quantities. And we have Looney Tunes, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Loops. Lucky Luke come out in the U.S.? Did not. Lunar Lander did not. Okay. Madden 95, Madden 96, Madden 97. I have Madden 95. This came out. I'll tell you a story about Madden 95. So I see Dallas right there. So this came out in November of 94, and it was published by EA. After a dozen games released on almost all platforms, the popular American football series by EA Sports, sponsored by former coach and commentator John Madden, finally landed on Game Boy. It was not easy to port the gameplay from previous releases onto a monochrome machine with only 2 buttons. However, this first attempt came with 3 game modes: Exhibition, Season, and Playoffs. Although the visuals look rather ordinary, the game boasts fluid animation. Also, there are nice colors added with the Super Game Boy. So what I used to do while playing as the Cowboys in Madden 95 for Game Boy is I'd be able, let's say it was first down at the 20, I'd run to the 1 yard line, my own one, take a 19-yard loss, and then on the next play do a sweep to the left and run down the sideline 99 yards. I would do that every game, every play that I had on offense. I was able to do that. Malibu Beach Volleyball, Marble Madness, Mario's Picross, Maru's Mission, Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow, another rare game to find complete. Megalith, Metal Masters, Mega Man, Dr. Wily's Revenge, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 5, Mega Man 4, Metroid 2, Return of Samus. Mickey's Dangerous Chase. This came Mickey Mouse 5, Magic Wands, Mercenary Force, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge, Micro Machines. I had this. This came out in January of 95. This was published by Ocean. Micro Machines released on Game Boy with a rather large amount of content, 28 tracks in 8 different environments, 8 vehicles, and 11 characters. The single-player mode provides only challenge and head-to-head modes. But the real selling point is the multiplayer mode. You can play with 2 players using the Game Link cable and up to 4 simultaneously with the 4-player adapter. It is even possible to have 2 players compete on one Game Boy. The players have to position themselves on each side of the Game Boy, and the vehicles will automatically advance. The first player uses the directional pad up-down to turn and left to brake, while the second player uses A, B, and start. It's not the most comfortable to play, but it's still an ingenious addition. This handheld version of Codemaster's hit title is a great racer on the go, despite its monotonous single-player mode. Monotonous single-player mode. Okay. Miner 2049er. Milan Secret Castle. Missile Command. Mole Mania. Monopoly. No, I don't think that came out. Montezuma's Return, Motocross Maniacs. Alright, we got the 3 Mortal Kombats and the double pack, which is extremely expensive. And I have the PAL version still have. I'm trying to sell, but I was able to get the US version. But anyway, let's talk about the 3. Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see the edge of the book. Alright, so they were all published by Acclaim. So, this is interesting. Okay, probe, yeah. Alright. Now, so, Probe did the first 2. The third was published by Software Creations. And the third is probably the worst of the 3. And that's saying something, because the first one was terrible. The second one, by far, is the best. It's not even close. And it's not because these 2 are that bad, it's because this was actually an incredible port for the Game Boy. But the first one came out in September 93. When it comes to fighting games for the Game Boy, there are 2 schools of thought. Convert an arcade hit as faithfully as possible, or reinvent the game in question to fit within the limitations of the console. With Mortal Kombat, Acclaim chose the first option. It was a choice that didn't pan out well. On the plus side, the sprites are huge, but on the other hand, the action is so distressingly slow, the scrolling so jerky, and the latency time for attacks so unbearable that nothing else even matters. Only 6 fighters are available, and each of them have 2 or 3 special moves as well as a fatality. Even the 2-player mode, which requires the Game Link cable, does not save the port from total disaster. Fatality indeed. Now let's see what they say about MK2. This came out in July of 94. Acclaim and Probe were at it again with converting Mortal Kombat 2 within the technical limitations of the Game Boy. However, there were some commendable efforts this time around from Probe. The player can now adjust the number of credits and difficulty. However, only 8 characters are available, each with 3 or 4 special attacks and 3 post-match finishes: Fatality, Stage Fatality, and Babality. The game is much better visually than its predecessor, with characters no longer blending in with the background. Even the hit detection is much better. However, the game still runs very slow, and attacks are still executed with a noticeable delay. It's still hard to recommend this title, even to Mortal Kombat fans, despite, sadly, being the best of the series for Game Boy. I disagree with this review 1,000%. It is not slow at all. It does not, I don't know what they're talking about, but I digress. Now this came out in July of 97. It's a double pack of 1 and 2. It's 2 mediocre at best titles for the price of 1. Obviously, this cartridge contains the first 2 Mortal Kombat games for Game Boy, and these versions are totally identical to those released in 1993 and 1994. Don't expect any improvements or updates here. Not even Super Game Boy upgrades, despite the later release in the Game Boy's lifespan. Unless you need to complete a collection or save some shelf space, this cartridge is not worth owning. I'm a collector, so that's why I have it. And then Mortal Kombat 3, this came out in October 95. Third time is not the charm for Mortal Kombat on Game Boy. Unfortunately, Mortal Kombat 3 was a considerable leap backwards. It's true. Mortal Kombat 2 was certainly disappointing, but not the catastrophic failure that was the first game. This time, the slow gameplay and jerky animations return, but this time with smaller sprites. Moves still have excessive latency, and the special attacks, 3 per fighter, are a pain to execute. There are 10 characters, 2 of them hidden, available, but the realization and gameplay are so bad that it wouldn't have mattered if the entire roster was added. Mortal Kombat 3 is a terrible port that doesn't even offer any Super Game Boy enhancements or a 2-player versus mode. The first Mortal Kombat on Game Boy was bad, but somewhat excused for being a first attempt. Mortal Kombat 3 has no excuse whatsoever. You weak, pathetic fool. That's funny. That's Shao Kahn's line at the end. And they're right about Mortal Kombat 3. Alright, we got the Mousetrap Hotel, Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise, Mr. Do, Miss Pac-Man, Muhammad Ali Heavyweight Boxing, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, Mysterium, Mulan, Nail and Scale. Let's see, what else we got? NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition. I have both of these. Both from Beam Software. Well, actually, developer of NBA Jam was Beam Software. From Acclaim published it. Came out in October of 94. This popular arcade basketball game of the 90s has seen countless ports, including on the Game Boy, and despite being on more low-end hardware, this handheld adaptation doesn't disappoint. The game has surprising fluidity in its horizontal scrolling and overall speed. Players have a lack of detail, but the simple and fun gameplay makes this a real joy regardless. Despite featuring 23 NBA teams, it does not make up for the lack of game modes. However, this includes the inability to hit the court against another player. And then NBA Jam Tournament Edition came out April of '95, and it's from Taurus Games, who developed it. Acclaim published it again. NBA Jam Tournament Edition slams its way to the Game Boy. This sequel improves upon the original title with more options, a tournament mode, additional teams and players, and a training mode, all while preserving the efficient gameplay and solid realization the franchise is known for. However, a multiplayer mode is still missing, and there's a noticeable lack of Super Game Boy enhancements. You have Navy SEALs, NBA All-Star Challenge, and NBA All-Star Challenge 2, both developed by Beam Software for LJN. First one came out in February of '91. The second one came out in May of '92, so basically a year and a half later. So the first one, in this basketball game from LJN, there are no traditional matches with teams of 5 or even 2 versus 2, like in NBA Jam. NBA All-Star Challenge only has duels between 2 basketball stars, among the 27 players available, and only using half of the court. 5 modes are available: one-on-one, horse, free throws, accuracy, and tournament, as well as the ability to play against another player via the Game Link cable. Although well made, NBA All-Star Challenge loses its fun and interest pretty quickly. NBA All-Star Challenge 2. Apparently EA Sports isn't the only company that has a monopoly on sports franchises that rarely change. The second NBA All-Star Challenge carries over everything from the previous title: graphics, controls, options. As for game modes, horse is removed in favor of slam dunk and three-point challenges. To be fair, the slam dunk challenge adds a bit to the game. This mode takes a side view, but the experience is short-lived. It feels more complete than its predecessor, but NBA All-Star Challenge 2 still suffers from being short on fun and engagement. And I didn't have this. I've seen gameplay footage of it on YouTube, and it looks atrocious. But I'd like to see what they say about NBA Live 96 from EA. This came out in January of 1996. This EA Sports NBA release unfortunately suffers from the FIFA syndrome, namely being another great 16-bit title that's been converted into a sloppy Game Boy port. Although rich in game modes and options, NBA Live 96 is an ordeal to play and watch. The small player sprites flicker incessantly, the isometric perspective makes the action hard to follow, and the sluggish feel of the game kills any attempt at having fun. How can scrolling be so slow and jerky at the same time? The animation alone makes this simply unplayable. I'd agree with that. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have in here? We have, nothing on this page. Okay, Nemesis. Then we have the new Chess Master. This came out in August of '94 from High-Tech Expressions. Contrary to what this title suggests, the new Chess Master doesn't really offer anything new. There are reverse colors in the menus and an updated AI, but otherwise the game is identical to the previous release. The modes, screens, and even difficulty levels are all the same. Even the Japanese version, released in 1998, didn't include any Super Game Boy enhancements to help justify a purchase. We have NFL football from Konami. We have NFL Quarterback Club, NFL Quarterback Club 2, NFL Quarterback Club 96, Nigel Mansell's World Championship Racing, NHL Hockey 95, NHL 96, Nintendo World Cup, very good soccer game, by the way, Ninja Boy, Ninja Boy 2, Ninja Gaiden Shadow, Nobunga's Ambition, Othello, Oddworld Adventures, Olympic Summer Games Atlanta 1996, Operation C, great Contra game for the Game Boy, $400 or $500 complete nowadays, excellent game. And obviously, this came out in February of '91. This is from Ultra Games, but it's really Konami. So the fan favorite Contra, aka Probo Protector, aka Grizzor, was surely to see an adaptation on Game Boy. Although very much inspired by the second NES title, this handheld run-and-gun shooter was a Game Boy exclusive In the American and Japanese versions, you play as Bill Reiser, a commando whose only objective is to kill aliens. However, much like on the NES, the European version was censored, instead replacing our human hero with a probotector robot named RD-008. This purely aesthetic change did not change the gameplay at all. Operation C includes 5 stages, alternating between a side view and a top-down view. Both viewpoints allow you to shoot in 8 directions, and weapon upgrades improve the hero's destructive capability. Spread shot, homing guns, fire gun. What this title also retained from the reputation of Contra was its great difficulty. Just the slightest contact with a projectile or enemy loses you a life, and the game is over after 3 lives are lost. Despite the technical limitations of the Game Boy and absence of a 2-player mode, this game honors its predecessors while offering a high level of challenge, which should surely delight fans of this popular Konami series. Here's some trivia. The Japanese version allows you to shoot only one of the first... Oh, the Japanese version allows you to start any one of the first 4 levels. This option is also in Western versions, but only after inputting the Konami code. This portable version of Contra introduced 2 new features to the franchise, automatic fire and homing bullets. So you got that. Out of gas, pack attack. Page Master, Panel Action Bingo, Paperboy, Paperboy 2. Where's Pac-Man? Did I miss that? No. How do they not have Pac-Man in here? That's very strange. Huh. Weird. Anyway, here we go. Pac in Time and then Pac-Man. So this came out, published by Namco, came out in April 91. It's Namco's classic game, but handheld. This Game Boy version is content offering just the bare minimum, including the 1 single-player mode, which consists of clearing the same level over and over again, much like the arcade original. It's closer to the NES port and uses a scrolling screen because of the Game Boy's small resolution. However, there is an option to display the whole maze on a fixed screen, but with smaller sprites. The 2-player versus mode using the Game Link cable has the participants choose their level. Overall, this Pac-Man port is a relatively faithful adaptation, but it's too limited in content. The Game Boy Color re-release, came out in 1999, would be backwards compatible and included Pac-Panic. Okay. Penguin War, have this. It got re-released on the PS4 and Switch. But this originally came out in July of 1990 and was published by ASCII ASCII. Known as King of the Zoo in Europe, this arcade title is about shooting balloons at your opponent, who is on the other side of the board. Each player has 5 balloons at the beginning of the game, and each balloon sent to the opponent's camp can be sent back at any time. Balloons can also collide with each other, thus changing their trajectory. This is a useful tactic to know, especially when against another player. However, the game is particularly limited since it provides only 4 levels and a few bonus stages. After a few games, even the 2-player mode will grow tiresome. And that's correct. I felt the same way when playing it way back in the day. Okay, we have PGA European Tour, PGA Tour 96, Pinball Mania. This is interesting because that's not what this is called. In North America, it was called Pinball Fantasies. Oh, okay, well, I don't know if you can see, but they have the same cover art here for Pinball Mania as they do Pinball Fantasies. So there's Pinball Fantasies, and this came out in February of 95. The second pinball game released by GameTech ups the ante with 4 pinball tables this time: Partyland, Speed Devils, Billion Dollar Game Show, and Stones Bones. The visuals are very similar to the previous game, and the lack of details in each table is for the better, since it allows you to focus more on following the action. However, you were once again unable to save your scores. And we have Pinball Dreams. We have Pinocchio, Pipe Dream, Pit Fighter, Pocahontas, Play Action Football. This is Nintendo's football game. I played the heck out of this back in the day, but God, does it move slow. So this came out in December of 1990. Nintendo's own American football game on Game Boy offers a lot more than Konami's poor NFL football release. It includes playoffs with passwords to resume progress, 4 difficulty levels, and a 2-player versus and team mode with 8 teams available. Unfortunately, the gameplay is so slow that it's difficult to really enjoy. And that's true. Okay, we have the P's now. Got Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow. Popeye 2. Popular come out in the US? No, it did not. Power Mission, Prehistoric Man, Power Racer, Power Rangers the movie, Primal Rage, Prince of Persia. I have this. This came out in January of '92, published by Mindscape. Jordan Mechner's classic was adapted on countless platforms, and Nintendo's consoles were no exception, including the Game Boy. What's most impressive right off the bat is the original game's visual fidelity remains, despite running on a handheld console. The quality animation, challenging level design, and precise controls are all there. The 2 face buttons on the Game Boy are enough to give the prince his repertoire of moves to work his way through the trapped corridors of Jafar's palace in order to save the beloved princess. It is still a treat to play even after so many years since its Apple II debut. Admittedly, one-on-one battles aren't great in readability, but this version is still an exemplary adaptation of a timeless masterpiece. And we have Prophecy the Viking Child, The Punisher, The Ultimate Payback. Pyramids of Ra have this. This is also very expensive, complete. This came out in... Why doesn't it have a US release here? That's weird. It says Japanese release in April '93. But it came out in the US, so I don't understand this. Matchbox published this. In this puzzle game, the objective is to control a ball that bounces on squares to return to the starting point. The problem is that after a bounce, the square disappears. It's up to you to anticipate the path and smoothly make it to the end. The difficulty goes up as you move ahead, with moving platforms, more resistance squares, springboards, and enemies that get in your way. It's rather simple but fun and addictive. Pyramids of Ra is an excellent puzzle game for the Game Boy. I don't know why they don't have a US release date, considering I bought it here in the United States. Cubillion Qbert Quicks. And this came out in May of '90. Nintendo published it. Taito's arcade hit was adapted for Game Boy many years after its arcade release, but 6 months before the NES version. The concept is as simple as it is addictive. You have to enclose the ever-moving quicks in an increasingly restricted area by drawing a line with a cursor from one edge of the game area to another. When a line connects 2 points of the rectangle that encloses an area, that area is effectively captured. When you fill at least 75% of the total playing area, you move on to the next level. However, if the quicks touches a line that is being drawn, the player loses a life. So be careful not to get too greedy and take unnecessary risks. This is a great arcade classic that includes a discreet cameo by Mario. The simple but addictive gameplay made it an ideal title for the Game Boy. We have Quarth, we have Race Days, R-Type 2, Race Driving, Radar Mission, Raging Fighter, Rampart. We have The Real Ghostbusters, Ren and Stimpy Show, Space Cadet Adventures, Ren and Stimpy Show Vidiots, and then Revenge of the Gator. This is from HAL, and this came out in March of 1990, another pinball game, right down here. Revenge of the Gator was the first pinball game for the Game Boy. It features only one table split into 3 screens. The middle part is made up of parts from the other screens, so it would have been better to focus on the 2 screens instead and show the whole table, or maybe even use a vertical scrolling technique instead, if possible. Fortunately, there are additional screens inspired by Brick Breaker games of the 80s to offer some variety and an additional challenge. A 2-player mode using the Game Link cable is also available, as well as taking turns using the same console. This is a classic in the genre that is both addictive and well made, which is interesting because everybody I've ever talked to, their opinion of this game is that it's terrible. So it's interesting that this book says that it's good. Rescue of Princess Blobette, A Boy and His Blob, Riddick Bow Boxing, Ring Rage, Road Rash, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, RoboCop 2, RoboCop vs. the Terminator, Roger Clemens MVP Baseball. Played the hell out of this as a kid. LJN published this. This came out in September of 92. With 26 teams, 2 game modes, season and exhibition, and the ability to play against another player with the Game Link cable, Roger Clemens MVP Baseball offers a decent amount of content for a Game Boy title. It is very well made, and the action is easy to follow. As is important for a sports title, there's also fluid animation and even various camera angles and anthems for the start of a game. However, the game can get repetitive rather quickly. Even baseball fans may have a hard time going the distance with this one. Interesting tidbit about this, it does not let you play an entire season. It starts you off in the pennant race, basically. So you're talking mid-August. So it's only mid-August to the end of the year, and then you have playoffs. The Rugrats movie, Roland's Curse 2, Samurai Showdown, Sequest DSV, Shanghai, Shaq Fu, Serpent, Side Pocket, Simpsons Bart and Beanstalk, The Simpsons Bart vs. the Juggernauts, Skate or Die, Bad and Rad, Skate or Die, Tour de Thrash, Small Soldiers, Sneaky Snakes, Snow Brothers Jr., The Smurfs, Nightmare. Or this did not come out in the US. I take that back, apologize. None of the Smurfs games did. Snoopy's Magic Show, Soccer Mania, Solar Striker had this shooter. Nintendo published this. This came out in February of 1990. As the first shoot-'em-up released on Game Boy, Solar Striker features vertical scrolling, but also allows you to shift the screen slightly to the left and right. This great classic features 6 levels with a boss battle at the end of each one, as well as a hidden hard mode, which is an unlockable reward for finishing the game. This is not an easy task considering the high difficulty of the last 2 stages. Fortunately, a few items can be collected to increase the firepower of your ship. Solar Striker is a demanding title that should please most shoot-'em-up fans. Solitaire Fun Pack, Solomon's Club, Spanky's Quest, Space Invaders, Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe, Speedy Gonzales. I had this, The Amazing Spider-Man from LJN. Played the heck out of this back in the day. Beat 'em up. This came out in July of 90. Spider-Man swings to the Game Boy in a very subpar beat 'em up. Depending on how much pressure you give the B button, Spider-Man can attack or throw his web like a projectile. The high difficulty of the title doesn't hide the low number of short levels, 8 in total, and the boss fights are spoiled by poor hit detection. The gameplay, simply put, is an overall mess. It's not uncommon to get stuck in the middle of a jump because you didn't trigger the web swing early enough between buildings. The rare sequences of vertical scrolling are not very exciting either. Then you have The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Invasion of the Spider Slayers, Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge. And you have Spot, The Cool Adventure, Spot, the video game, Spy vs. Spy, Mad Magazine's Official, Sports Illustrated Golf Classic, Sports Illustrated Championship Football and Baseball, Sports Illustrated for Kids, The Ultimate Triple Dare, Spud's Adventure, Star Trek The Next Generation, Square Deal, Star Trek The 25th Anniversary, Star Trek Generations Beyond the Nexus, Stargate, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Super Return of the Jedi, Stop That Roach, Street Fighter 2, I have this. This came out in September of 95 from Capcom. Without a doubt, this is one of the worst ports of Capcom's groundbreaking title. Where should we even begin? There's the absence of characters, Dalsum E. Honda Vega, ultra-jerky animation, moves that feel sluggish, lack of readability for the action overall, imprecise hit detection, and the fact that moves are performed with only 2 buttons when the arcade original uses 6. To compensate for the latter, the pressure when pushing the A and B buttons determines whether you get a weak or strong attack. The ideas sound on paper, but there is no pleasure when put into practice. This is a rather shameful port, with the only positive point being that it can be played with two players using two controllers via the Super Game Boy. However, if you're going to use the SNES, then you may as well play the actual game on that console. Then you have Street Racer, Sumo Fighter, the most expensive Game Boy game I own. This is easily $2,000. This was published by DTMC, and it came out in March of '93. Contrary to what the title suggests, Sumo Fighter is actually not a fighting game, but rather a platformer. You play as a sumo wrestler who must rescue his kidnapped girlfriend by making your way through 15 levels across 5 worlds of various environments. Linear in nature, the game is a succession of platforms to jump, traps to dodge, and enemies to slap until they are sent flying off the screen. To make your journey easier, some items that restore your health or give access to special moves can be found. With impressive graphics, especially the sprites, this is a hidden gem on the Game Boy that thankfully received a North American release. We have Super Breakout, Super Chew, skipped a page here, Super Black Bass, Super Battle Tank, Super Chase HQ, Super Hunchback, Super James Pond, did not come out. And the Super Mario Land, here we go. This came out in July of 1989 by Nintendo. In Super Mario Land, you get the basics of what makes a Mario title, namely a horizontal scrolling platformer with lots of secret passages, coins, power-ups, mushroom, star, fire flower, and familiar enemies. There are Goombas, piranha plants, and even the flies from the Mario Brothers arcade game. Also, Koopas don't leave their shells behind, but a bomb instead. Each level ends with 2 doors to pass through. The top one, the least easy to access, leads to a bonus room allowing you to gain extra lives or a fire flower. Apart from a few subtleties that differentiate this title from its elder on the NES, there are a couple of shoot-'em-up levels where Mario mans a submarine and plane to help diversify the content. With 4 worlds, 3 levels in each, Super Mario Land has a much smaller scope than Super Mario Bros. On the NES, especially since the popular warp zones that allow you to progress faster are absent. If you defeat the final boss, the one-off Tatanga, instead of the usual Bowser, an expert mode is unlocked to challenge your skills. This title's commercial success led to it being re-released in 1996 in Europe and North America as part of the Classics and Power Player's Choice lineups. It was later released again for the 3DS Virtual Console in 2011. And then, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. This came out in November of '92, a year later. Mario's evil doppelganger Wario has taken over his castle. To open the door and face his rival, Mario must collect 6 golden coins, per the subtitle, that are held by bosses in 6 themed zones. Compared to Super Mario Land, this sequel makes a huge visual leap forward with bigger sprites and more detailed environments. There's also the addition of a battery save and overworld map, much like in Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. In addition to the usual mushroom, fire flower, and star, there's the brand new carrot power-up, which gives Mario rabbit ears that allow him to glide, particularly useful in reaching the bell for the bonus minigame at the end of the level. Finally, there are about 30 levels, including secret areas. The presence of hidden exits encourages players to search and discover all of the secrets this game has to offer. Super Mario Land 2 is an excellent platformer with gameplay and controls that any fan of Nintendo's mascot can't miss out on. And then you have Super Off-Road, Super RC Pro-Am. I have this. This came in June of 1991 from Nintendo. Rare's excellent radio-controlled car racing game, Slides to the Game Boy, offer a fun NES release, despite the absence of a multiplayer mode. Luckily, this handheld adaptation allows up to 4 players to play simultaneously, provided you have the 4-player adapter handy. The gameplay here is similar to its home console brethren, complete with efficient and very readable 3D isometric action, precise control of the vehicles, many items to collect, and the ability to improve your vehicle between each race. This is a very good title, even with a lack of game modes. Then you have Super Scrabble, you have Man, Swamp Thing, Sword of Hope, Sword of Hope 2, T2 the arcade game. So this came out in November of '92 from LJN. To try and convert this popular arcade shooter to the Game Boy is difficult, to say the least, and yet Beam Software somehow pulled it off very well. The 7 levels, from the devastated ruins of the future to the final steel mill, are paced rather quickly and respectfully of the movie's narrative, as well as the original game. The sound effects may be repetitive, but the gameplay never bogs down as you can indiscriminately shoot everything that passes by your screen. So you got that. Tailgater, Tailspin, Tamagotchi, Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, Tasmania Story, Tasmania 2, Tecmo Bowl. This came from Tecmo, and Sculptured Software developed it. This came out in September of '91. Best football game on the Game Boy, it's not even close. Simple in appearance but fun to play, this Game Boy port of the popular Tecmo Bowl is a pleasant surprise. This handheld rendition includes 12 teams without the NFL license but with the real-life players, and a content-rich career mode. A vast selection of plays can be called to predetermine the actions of the players on the field in order to advance towards the opponent's end zone and score touchdowns. If directing the team sounds more appealing, the coach mode allows you to strictly manage the team. Already a classic on the NES, Tecmo Bowl easily keeps its title of video game football champion with this portable release. Yeah, that game was the best of any football game on the system, not even close. And then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Follow the Foot Clan from LJN. This came out, or from Konami, excuse me. And this came out August of '90. The Adventures of the Four Shell Brothers turned ninja began on Game Boy with its simple but efficient title. With its precise gameplay, Follow the Foot Clan laid a more solid foundation than its NES counterpart and made for a more balanced challenge for its young demographic. The core cast is here, with the evil Shredder, his goons Bebop and Rocksteady, and even Baxter Stockman and Krang. 5 levels can be played through in the player's desired order from the start, as well as choosing which turtle to use. This is a classic platformer with some bonus stages hidden throughout, although it may be considered overly simplistic for more hardcore fans. Then you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Radical Rescue. Tennis from Nintendo. This came out in July of 1989. The first tennis game for the Game Boy is admittedly pretty basic, even in the title. Only one single-player mode matches in 3 sets, 4 difficulty levels, and a 2-player versus mode with the Game Link cable are available here. As for the gameplay, tennis offers the bare minimum. You can direct the ball with the directional pad, lob, and smash, but that's it. Fortunately, the game's visuals makes the action easy to read, and the animation is fluid. Despite its bare-bones content, tennis is a solid title by Nintendo. Then you have Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Tesserae. You have nothing here, I don't think. Nope. Tetris. Okay, so obviously came with the Game Boy, but I do have the actual game separately in box, and it came out July of '89. Alexei Pajitnitov's masterpiece has become so iconic that it will forever be associated with the Game Boy. Its concept, both simple to understand and complex to master at a high level, takes advantage of the randomness of the Tetromino figures as they fall from the top of the screen to guarantee a different experience every time. Tetris rewards players for their flexibility and improvisational skills in the face of an ever-increasing challenge. Apart from the classic mode, where pieces fall faster as the score rises, you can also choose to start in the middle of a game and with half of the screen filled. A game over happens when the screen is filled and can't fit another Tetromino. Lines of 1, 2, and 3 can be made for higher scores, or with the use of a long piece, 4 lines can be cleared, appropriately called a Tetris. With a perfect balance of simple but addictive gameplay, Tetris is still considered the undisputed leader of puzzle games today. And here's some trivia. Tetris is the first video game to have been played in space. The famous Tetris music, inspired by the Russian folk song Korobylinsky, is absent from the first Japanese version, which used a completely different A theme. Then you have Tetris 2, Tetris Attack, Tetris Blast, Tetris Plus. Tiny Toon Adventures, Bab's Big Break, Tiny Toon Adventures Wacky Sports. This game was incredibly hard. This came out from Konami, published it, came out in December of '94, and this game was impossible. Instead of platforming, we now get sports. The first mode of Wacky Sports includes 6 events: baseball, soccer, American football, tennis, basketball, and golf. However, each one is represented in the form of mini-games as opposed to being full representatives of their pastimes. There's goal shooting for soccer, batting for baseball, squash for tennis, and so on. In short, these are challenges with limited gameplay, where reflexes and luck take precedence over technique and dexterity. 2 more events are available with even more basic gameplay, reminiscent of Game & Watch titles. This is a well-made title that can be fun at first, but it quickly feels limited and boring, especially with the two-player mode which consists of alternating turns. They didn't mention the extremely hard difficulty. Tiny Toon Adventures 2, Montana's Movie Madness. Then there's Top Gun, Guts and Glory. Tom and Jerry Frantic Antics, Top Rank Tennis, Torpedo Range, Total Carnage, Toxic Crusaders, Toy Story, Track and Field, Trip World, Tracks, Track Meet, True Lies, Turrican, Turn and Burn, the F-14 Dogfight Simulator, Turok Battle of the Dinosaurs. Here we go. Ultima Ruins of Virtue. This came out in July of 92. And this was on sale at the Walpole, Massachusetts Woolworths in the Walpole Mall for $29.99. My grandmother bought it for me. It looked really cool on the back of the box. I figured it was sort of like an action game. Had no idea it was an RPG. It was my first ever RPG. And this is what, until Kingdom Hearts came out, this is what prevented me from playing any RPGs, really, ever, because it got so maddening. In this game, you had to find 7 runes. I had found 6. I had no health. I had no money left. I couldn't find where the 7th one was. I called Nintendo Power for help. The guy on the phone, first of all, it rang up a phone bill like my mom will never forget, and she never let me hear the end of it. But he told me I had to find some magic flute and play the flute near the water, and an undercover cavern would come up. That was a load of horseshit. On my channel, Andy VHB, I have gameplay of me beating this finally years and years later, and what he said had nothing to do with anything. So suffice it to say, I finally beat it. But the Black Knight has stolen there's 8 runes, excuse me, I had 7. The Black Knight has stolen the 8 runes of virtue, and it is up to you to find and return them to your lord. It's safe to say that this portable adaptation of Ultima is non-original in terms of its scenario. You choose between 4 classes at the beginning of the game: Mage, Swordsman, Bard, and Ranger, before embarking on an adventure in a top-down view like any classic RPG, with a world map, castle, caves, and so on. However, combat is done in real time, like in The Legend of Zelda, from which it takes a lot of inspiration. Top-down view, 8 dungeons, health represented by hearts, equipment assigned to the A and B buttons. Ultima is very basic, with very small sprites and simple animations. On the plus side, it has enough content to keep you occupied for a long while, and you can cooperate or battle with another player using the Game Link cable. Then the sequel came out, Ultima Ruins of Virtue 2. Then you have Universal Soldier, Ultra Golf, Urban Strike, V-Rally, nope, that didn't come out in America. Vegas Stakes did though. Waterworld, and then here's Wave Race, July of 92. Produced by Shigeru Miyamoto, the gameplay in Wave Race is modeled after Micro Machines. This jet ski game includes a championship mode, 8 circuits, and slalom mode, 8 courses, each with 3 difficulty modes. A training mode and multiplayer that supports up to 4 players with the 4-player adapter are also available. It can take some time to get used to the inertia of the vehicles, especially when making tight turns. Thankfully, there is a boost with a gauge that fills up over time, which makes it easier to straighten when exiting turns. This technique is essential if you want to finish first, especially since the competitors are aggressive and obstacles become more and more numerous as you progress. This game was re-released in North America and released in Europe the same year, 1997, to coincide with the release of Wave Race 64, which made a bigger splash with N64 owners thanks in large part to its water physics. Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land 2, Wario Blast featuring Bomberman, We're Back, Wayne's World, WCW Wrestling, the main event, Wheel of Fortune, I have that, this is from Game Tech, and this came out in September of 90. This Game Tech title is an adaptation of the famous American game show of the same name, which you can play alone or with a friend. You have to guess the letters that make up words, detonating a personality, place, object, or expression. Wheel of Fortune does what it needs to do, although the interface used to enter characters is rather laborious. This title was reissued in 1992. You got Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Winter Olympic Games, Lillehammer, 1994. Wild Snake, Word Zap, World Cup 98. That's the one that came out. It wasn't FIFA, it was World Cup 98. World Bowling, Wordtris, Wizards and Warriors X, Fortress of Fear, World Circuit Series, no, that didn't come out here. World Cup USA 94, did not either. Sorry about that. Worms did. WWF Raw, have this from LJN. This came out in December 94. When it comes to Game Boy wrestling titles, WWF Raw wishes to be the cream of the crop. The number of wrestlers is maintained at 8, including The Undertaker, but at the cost of the two-player mode and a complete overhaul of the graphics. The camera moves away from the action, trapping the whole ring in the screen, which fatally reduces the size of the sprites, making each character barely recognizable. The music for wrestler theme songs sounds good, and the survival, tag team, and tournament modes provide some variety. WWF King of the Ring, WWF Warzone, WWF Superstars, WWF Superstars 2, and Yoshi, Yoshi's Cookie, Zen Intergalactic Ninja, Zool, Ninja of the Nth Dimension, Zoop. And that is it for games in the America. You had some peripherals. You had the Game Boy shaped carrying case, which I never had. Game Link cable, which we did. We had the Game Genie, which we did. The 4-player, or the carrying case, the fanny pack, which I got in a bundle with Super RC Pro-Am at Woolworths back in the day. The Light Max, I never had that. Never had any of these things. Let's see, I had the cleaning kit. I have that sealed. Game Boy camera. Game Boy printer. Unreleased games. The Adventures of Pinocchio, Akira, Armadillo Gaiden, Baby's Day Out, Bill Walsh College Football. Interesting. Released on Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, and Mega CD, this American college soccer simulation was supposed to be adapted on Game Boy. We don't know anything about this portable version, including the studio in charge of this adaptation, and no picture has ever been released. Bobby's World, Home Alone 2, Kevin's Dream. Interesting there. Blade Warrior. Death Track, Dune 2 Battle for Arrakis, Dungeon Warrior, Earthworm Jim 2, Eddie's Puzzle Time, Elite, Global Gladiators, Heart and Heart, some Activity Pack Berlitz Japanese translator, that never came out. Let's see, John Madden Football. Developed by NMS Software, the first console adaptation of the Madden series was announced by Ubisoft on NES and Game Boy for Christmas 1993, only to be canceled the following year. Adopting an aerial view and horizontal scrolling, this American football simulation had not yet passed the testing phases, according to some rumors. The Gigalac of September 2020 allowed to find the ROM of a rather curious prototype, which proposes a Super Game Boy screen border. As the SNES adapter was released in mid-1994, we can deduce that the development of John Madden Football was postponed before being permanently canceled, in favor of the Madden 95 made by Hellstrom, released in November 1994. There's Clue Star, Magical Saurus, Learn and Play Blackjack and Solitaire, Metro Panic, Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City. This platformer starring Michael Jordan was released for Super Nintendo in 1994, but the Mega Drive and Game Boy adaptations were canceled. A prototype of Sega's planned 16-bit version has been found, but no trace of the Game Boy adaptation. There is no known image of it. Then we got Nick Faldo's Championship Golf, Ragnarok, Rap Quest, Rainbow Chips, Peaky Blinder, Skeleton Warrior, Super Battletoads, Trickle, Willie and Wright, No Rockboard, That's Paradise, Work Boy, The Codes Decoded. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Game Boy Collection, the original Game Boy, Off-White, the Play It Loud series. Game Boy hardware. Goes into the hardware and how it became what it was, which is interesting. Super Game Boy. Then we have the Virtual Boy part of this, which I remember playing this in Sears, and I thought it was cool, but I really didn't get into it, and a lot of people didn't either, for various reasons. One of them being the red graphics, second being nausea. Yeah, V Tetris. Now I have that only because it's a Tetris game and I collect all the. I also have 3D Tetris. Normally I don't collect Japanese games, but that was a Tetris game that I did collect and bought and had shipped over here. So I'm sure this is where the 3D glasses would come in handy here. Yeah. So 3D Tetris. Or 3 Rarity 3. So this came out in March of '96 for the Virtual Boy. Japanese version was canceled. Adapting a concept as simple and effective as Tetris into a 3D space is an exercise in futility. Tetris is perfect as is, so why overcomplicate the premise? It's a desire to innovate while being a detriment to the pure enjoyment of the game itself. However, the Virtual Boy gives some legitimacy to this title's existence. A more classic style of Tetris, V Tetris, already existed for the console. Plus, the 3D effect could be used, in theory, to play with depth perception and gameplay. Also, 3D Tetris is one of the few Virtual Boy games to fully utilize the 2 directional pads on the controller. The right one is used to move pieces, while the left rotates them on 3 axes. Among the 3 game modes, some of which offer a few variations, there is the classic Tetris mode, but also a puzzle mode where the goal is to reconstruct the previously illustrated shapes to help you find your way around. Boxes representing the 5 floors of the game area and a top-down view are visible to the right of the screen. With the 3D wireframe, it becomes very difficult to navigate as the blocks stack, especially when the speed increases. 3D Tetris is overall a good title that is a fair share of game modes, but it's far from being as addictive and memorable as the good old 2D Tetris. Trivia says 3D Tetris is the last official game released on Virtual Boy. The Japanese version was under the name Polygo Block, but it was also canceled before release. Got Galactic Pinball, Golf, Japanese game, Jack Brothers, Mario Clash, Mario's Tennis, Nestor's Funky Bowling, very rare to find complete, Panic Bomber, Red Alarm, Japanese game, Space Invaders Virtual Collection. This only came out in Japan. Space Squash, Tellero Boxer, V Tetris. Rarity is 1, score is 3. This was done by Bulletproof Software, August of '95 in Japan. Good old Tetris. While 3D Tetris was released exclusively in North America, V Tetris was reserved for the Japanese market. And unlike the North American title, this one kept the original 2D gameplay. It's a good game that's simple and efficient, even with the obvious question, what's the point of adapting this great classic to Virtual Boy? The 3D effect is there, but it doesn't add to the experience. As for the game modes, there's Type A and Type B, which correspond to the original Tetris on Game Boy. Type A is an endless marathon with an ever-increasing speed every 10 lines. Type B has a goal of 25 lines to be achieved with various levels of difficulty. A new third mode, Tetris Loop, is similar to Type A, except now the playfield can be moved from left to right by using the right directional pad. It's an original idea, but doesn't add much more to the experience. Also, it plays an unbearable musical loop of less than 10 seconds. It's enough to drive you crazy. The other modes at least offer different music choices, or even no music at all. It's not bad, but V Tetris feels unsuitable for the Virtual Boy platform. Vertical Force, Virtual Bowling, Virtual Boy Wario Land, Virtual Fishing, Virtual Lab, Virtual League Baseball. I remember playing this in Sears. Water World. Got a 0 for score. Virtual Boy Canceled Games. 3D Tank, Bound High. Let's see what else. Dragon Hopper. That's some GoldenEye 007. Couple Japanese games. Out of the Death Mount. Mario Brothers VB. VB Mario Land, Mario's Adventure, Virtual Bomberman, Virtual Jockey, Worms, Zero Races, and G0. We'll go into the Virtual Boy hardware. Game Boy box art. In the 90s, the game box art was the first contact between a potential buyer and the object of their desire. Many people have touched, flipped, and scoured through these visual feasts on retail store shelves to try and unravel the mysteries of the games they represented. This chapter is a tribute to nearly 1,500 game box art covers that were often original, sometimes surprising, and strangely nostalgic in more modern times. These are grouped into 5 categories based on region: Japanese, European, American, Euro-American, and Chinese. The Euro-American category includes identical covers, with the only difference being the shape of the seal of quality logo, oval in America, round in Europe, in order to avoid redundancy. Finally, each cover is captioned with the original title, accompanied by the title or titles used in other territories if applicable. So we don't care about Japanese covers. We can skip that. Here's the American covers. American exclusive and the games marketed in North America whose covers differ from the European versions. When it is different, the European title is mentioned in brackets. So, these are all the games released in America. Addams Family, Bugsy's Scavenger Hunt, Adventure Island 2, Aliens in Paradise, Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, Aladdin, Alfred Chicken, All-Star Baseball, Amazing Tater, Atomic Punk, Avenging Spirit, Bases Loaded, Batman Forever, Battle Arena to Shinden, Beetlejuice, Bill Elliott's NASCAR Fast Tracks, Bionic Battler, Black Bass Lure Fishing, Blaster Master Boy, Bo Jackson 2 Games in 1, Boggle Plus, Bomberman GB, Bonk's Adventure, Bonk's Revenge, Boomer's Adventure in Asmic World, Brain Bender, Breakthrough, Bubsy 2, The Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, Buster Bros, Captain America and the Adventures, Castlevania Legends, Trap, Championship Pool, College Slam, Contra the Alien Wars, Cool Ball, Cool Spot, Crystal Quest, Cyraid, Daedalian Opus, Darkwing Duck, Dead Heat Scramble, Dick Tracy, Donkey Kong Land 2, Donkey Kong Land 3, Double Dragon, Double Dribble, Dr. Franken, Dracula Bram Stoker's, Earthworm Jim, Elite Soccer, Extra Bases, F1 Pole Position, Faceball 2, that's a mistake. It says Faceball 200 here, it should be 2000. Fastest Lap, The Fidgets, FIFA 97, FIFA International Soccer, FIFA Soccer 96, Final Fantasy Adventure, Final Fantasy Legend, Final Fantasy Legend 2, Final Fantasy Legend 3, Fish Dude, Fist of the North Star, The Flintstones, Flipple, Frogger, Game of Harmony, Getaway High Speed 2, Go-Go Tank, Godzilla, Golf Classic Sports Illustrated, Gradius, The Interstellar Assault, Great Greed, Gremlins 2, HAL Wrestling, Harvest Moon, Hatris, Heavyweight Championship Boxing, Hey Uncle Alien, Hercules, High Stakes Gambling, Hook, Hudson Hawk, Humans, In Your Face, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, International Superstar Soccer, Ishido, The Way of the Stones, Jeep Jamboree Off-Road Adventure, Jeopardy, Jeopardy Teen Tournament, Jeopardy Platinum Edition, Jeopardy Sports Edition, Jimmy Connors Tennis, Joe and Mac, Jungle Book, Jungle Strike, Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues, Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball, King of Fighters 95, Kingdom Crusade, Clax, Night Quest, Laszlo's Leap, Legend of the River King, Lethal Weapon, Little Mermaid, Madden 97, Malibu Beach Volleyball, Mario's Picross, Maru's Mission, Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow, Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Metal Masters. So it does not look like they have all of the cover art here, which is a shame. Because we're missing 4 and 5, we're missing Mad 95 and 6, I don't know why, but let's keep going. Mickey Mouse Magic Wands, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the Movie, Mile on Secret Castle, Miner 2049er, Monopoly, Mousetrap Hotel, Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise, Muhammad Ali Heavyweight Boxing, Mulan, Mysterium, Mystical Ninja starring Goyman, Navy SEALs, NBA Live 96, Nemesis, NFL Football, NFL Quarterback Club 96, NHL 96, Nigel Mansell's World Championship Racing, Ninja Gaiden Shadow, Ninja Tarot, Nobunga's Ambition, Operation C, Out of Gas, Pack Attack, Panel Action Bingo, Penguin Wars, Pinball Fantasies, Pinball Revenge of the Gator, Pinocchio, Pipe Dream, Pit Fighter, Play Action Football, Pocahontas, Pokemon Blue version, Pokemon Red version, Pokemon Yellow version, Popeye 2, Power Mission, Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, Prehistoric Man, Primal Rage, Punisher The Ultimate Payback, Pyramids of Ra, Q-Billion, Quarth, R-Type, Race Days, Race Driving, The Real Ghostbusters, Ren and Stimpy, Snow Space, The Cadet Adventures, Ring Rage, Roger Clemens MVP Baseball, Roland's Curse 2, The Rugrats Movie, Samurai Showdown, Sequest DSV, Serpent, Shanghai, Shaq Fu, Skater Die Bad and Rad, Skater Die Tour de Thrash, Small Soldiers, The Smurfs, Snow Brothers, Soccer Mania, Solitaire Fun Pack, Spirit of F1, Sports Illustrated Championship Football and Baseball, Sports Illustrated for Kids The Ultimate Triple Dare, Spot the Cool Adventure, Spud's Adventure, Square Deal, Star Wars, Stop That Roach, Street Racer, Sumo Fighter, Super Black Bass, Super Breakout, Super Hunchback, Super Off-Road, Super Scrabble, Sword of Hope 2, Tasmania Story, Tasmania 2, Tecmo Bowl, Tiny Toon Adventures Wacky Sports, Tiny Toon Adventures 2, Montana's Movie Madness, Tom and Jerry Frantic Antics, Torpedo Range, Toss-It Crusaders, Track and Field, Track Meet, Tumble Pop, Turn and Burn the F-14 Dogfight Simulator, Ultima Ruins of Virtue 2, Ultra Golf, Wario Land 2, Wayne's World, We're Back, Wheel of Fortune, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Wild Snake, Winter Olympic Games, Lilyhammer 94, Word Zap, Word Tris, World Bowling, World Heroes 2 Jet, Yogi Bear's Gold Rush, Yoshi, Zen Intergalactic Ninja, and Zool Ninja of the Nth Dimension. Oh, so these are different. These are the ones that have the same illustration, both American and European releases. So, 4-in-1 Fun Pack, 4-in-1 Fun Pack 2, The Addams Family, The Adventure of Star Saver, Aerostar, Alien 3, Alien vs. Predator, Alleyway, Altered Space, Amazing Penguin, Animaniacs, Arcade Classics number 1, Arcade Classic number 2, Arcade Classic number 3, Arcade Classic number 4, Asteroids, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Avenging Spirit, Balloon Kid, Barbie Game Girl, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Dead, Baseball, Batman Return of the Joker, Batman the Animated Series, Batman the Video Game, Battle Bull, Battle Unit Zeoth, Battleship, Battletoad, Battletoads Double Dragon The Ultimate Team, Battletoads in Ragnarok's World, Beavis and Butthead, Best of the Best Championship Karate, Bill and Ted's Excellent Game Boy Adventure, Bionic Commando, Blades of Steel, Blues Brothers Jukebox Adventure, Boxel 2, Brain Drain, Bubble Bobble Part 2, Bubble Ghost, Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, Barai Fighter Deluxe, Burger Time Deluxe, Bust-A-Move 2 Arcade Edition, Caesar's Palace, Casino Fun Pack, Casper, The Castlevania Adventure, Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge, Centipede, Chase HQ, The Chessmaster, Choplifter 2, Chuck Rock, Cliffhanger, Cool World, Cosmo Tank, Cutthroat Island, Daffy Duck, Darkman, Days of Thunder, Dennis the Menace, Desert Strike, Dexterity, Dig Dug, Donkey Kong Land, Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon 3 arcade game, Dr. Franken 2, Dr. Mario, Dragon's Lair, Dragon Heart, DuckTales, DuckTales 2, Elevator Action, F-15 Strike Eagle, F1 Race, Felix the Cat, Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, FIFA Road to the World Cup 98, Fighting Simulator 2 and 1, Flying Warriors, Flash, Flintstones King Rock, Treasure Island, Foreman for Real, Fortified Zone, Frank Thomas Big Hurt, Game & Watch Gallery, Gargoyles Quest, Gauntlet 2, Gearworks, George Foreman's KO Boxing, Ghostbusters 2, Golf, Hit the Ice, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hunt for Red October, Hyper Load Runner, Incredible Crash Dummies, Infogenius French Translator 1, Infogenius Spanish Translator 2, Infogenius Travel Guide 3, Infogenius Personal Organizer 4, Infogenius Spell Checker 5, Iron Man XO, Manowar and Heavy Metal, Itchy and Scratchy Miniature Golf Madness, Jack Nicklaus Golf, James Bond 007, Jetsons Robot Panic, Jordan vs. Bird 1-on-1, Judge Dredd, Kid Dracula, Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, Killer Instinct, Kirby's Block Ball, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Pinball Land, Kirby's Star Stacker, Kirby's Funhouse, Kung Fu Master, Quirk, Lamborghini American Challenge, Last Action Hero cover, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Lemmings, The Lion King, Lock and Chase, Looney Tunes, Loops, Lost World Jurassic Park, Madden 95, Madden 96, Marble Madness, Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, Megalit, Mercenary Force, Metroid 2 Return of Samus, Mickey's Dangerous Chase, Mickey Mouse Magic Wands, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge, Micro Machines 2 Turbo Tournament, Missile Command, Mole Mania, Monster Truck Wars, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2, Motocross Maniacs, Mr. Do, Miss Pac-Man, Nail and Scale, NBA All-Star Challenge, NBA All-Star Challenge 2, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, New Chess Master, NFL Quarterback Club 2, NHL Hockey 95, Ninja Boy 2, Nintendo World Cup, Oddworld Adventures, Olympic Summer Game, Pack in Time, Pac-Man, The Page Master, Paperboy 2, PGA European Tour, PGA Tour 96, Pinball Dreams, Power Racer, Prince of Persia, The Prophecy, Viking Child, Qbert, Quicks, Radar Mission, Raging Fighter, Rampart, Ren and Stimpy Show, Vidiots, Rescue of Princess Blobette, Riddick Bow Boxing, Road Rash, Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, RoboCop 2, RoboCop vs. the Terminator, Side Pocket, Simpsons Bart and the Beanstalk, Simpsons Bart vs. the Juggernauts, Sneaky Snakes, Snoopy's Magic Show, Solar Striker, Solomon's Club, Space Invaders, Spanky's Quest, Speedball 2, Speedy Gonzales, Spider-Man the Amazing, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Invasion of the Spider-Man X-Men, Spot the Video Game, Spy vs. Spy, Stargate, Star Trek 25th Anniversary, Star Trek Generations Beyond the Nexus, Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Wars Empire Strike Back, Star Wars Super Return of the Jedi, Street Fighter 2, Super Battle Tank, Super Chase HQ, Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, Super RC Pro-Am, Superman, Swamp Thing, Sword of Hope, T2 Terminator 2 Judgment Day, T2 the arcade game, Tailgater, Tailspin, Tamagotchi, Tarzan Lord of the Jungle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fall of the Foot Clan, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Back from the Sewers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Radical Rescue, Tennis, Tesserae, Tetris, Tetris 2, Tetris Attack, Tetris Blast, Tetris Plus, Tiny Toon Adventures Bab's Big Break, Titus the Fox, Tom and Jerry, Top Gun Guts and Glory, Top Rank Tennis, Total Carnage, Toy Story, Tracks, True Lies, Turok Battle of the Dinosaurs, Turrican, Universal Soldier, Urban Strike, Vegas Stakes, Wario Blast, Wario Land Super Mario Land 3, Wave Race, WCW Wrestling The Main Event, Wizards and Warriors X Fortress of Fear, World Cup 98, WWF King of the Ring, WWF Raw, WWF Superstars, WWF Superstars 2, WWF Warzone, Xenon 2, Yoshi's Cookie, and Zoop. And here are the European covers of the games, which we'll fly through here. the differences. And Chinese covers. And Game Boy art. And the collector's corner. Would you like to know which region of the world the game was released in so as to complete your collection? This table lists all known regional versions in the Game Boy library, which is pretty cool. As a reminder, here are the 22 localization codes used by Nintendo. Well, it shows every game ever released in a normal format here, not like the Brick and Destroy game that came with this. And here's the book. Since its launch on April 21st, 1989, the Game Boy has left a profound mark on the history of video games. After the worldwide success of the Game & Watch and Famicom NES, Nintendo's hardware master Gunpei Yokoi utilized his experience by designing a simple machine with undeniable advantages. Thus, the Game Boy, with 118 million units sold worldwide, became the first console to successfully democratize video games among a wide and diverse public. 6 years later, the genius inventor leveraged the success by developing a brand new console called the Virtual Boy, with its bipod mount and red and black stereoscopic display. This would go on to become one of Nintendo's biggest failures. The Game Boy and Virtual Boy Anthology looks back at the epic and radically opposed destinies of these two machines throughout their respective histories, worldwide game libraries, collector items, canceled games, hardware, and regional box art covers. This book pays tribute to the machines and men who followed Gunpei Yokoi's mantra of lateral thinking with withered technologies. So guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.